So today we're going to be debunking a few Instagram myths and setting the record straight about a few things that you probably hear all the time. A few things, of course, shadow banning, a few other different topics. And this will be a very quick webinar. I know last month a few people, sometimes we usually go an hour, but we want to be very mindful of time. We know everybody has a quick schedule, very busy schedule, and we really appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us for this little quick hour. And I want to make sure that I answer any of the questions you may have. So just so you know, there are like tons and tons of myths out there. And we're always, aside from providing you the tool to make sure that your Instagram looks beautiful and that you're planning out all your content and giving you the actual strategies to plan out your content, we also try to be kind of the FBI and try to investigate the truth and try to see what's fact from fiction and see what's actually true, so that way we can actually implement strategies that are, held up to the actual things that Instagram is doing. So one thing for sure is that we're not Instagram, so we don't know all the answers, but we do know a few things. So this is from what we know, so let's just go ahead and set the record straight on a few things. And of course, if I don't cover anything, there's so many rumors out there. So if I don't cover anything, feel free to put it in the chat box. I'll try to answer them, and if not, we'll go ahead and dive into it. We'll do our own investigation from in-house and probably get back to you and see if we can go ahead and find the truth. So myth number one, Instagram practices shadow banning. Raise your hand if you have been victim to the Instagram shadow ban. Curious to know. My screen is blowing up with tons of raised hands right now. So the Instagram shadow ban, or the shadow ban, and if you're not familiar with it, it's just this practice in any type of platform, social media, that basically the platform will hide your content or hide your profile, not necessarily banning you off of platform, but making your content not seen so people don't engage with it, people don't see it, and you're just posting content and you're waiting for people to just like your content, but you're not getting any engagement. So essentially you're thinking, oh, Instagram's hiding my content, like I'm in my shadow banned. So I'm constantly getting this question. I see it everywhere. The thing is that this is not true. So we'll just dive into it. It's false. There's Instagram actually last summer had already set the record straight that there is no such thing as a shadow ban. I think the one thing here is that people are not necessarily having their content perform just as well because of the algorithm. So the algorithm, and if you watch last month's webinar, I definitely suggest you do, but the algorithm works in a certain way that it ranks content to each feed as a user. So my feed is going to be different from everybody's feed over here because I engage with certain profiles differently than you might. I might like, Domino's decor Instagram, and you might like a different profile. Maybe I'll be Refinery 29. You might care more about lifestyle and I care more about home decor. So the way that you engage with certain content is very different to the way that I do. That's how the algorithm works. There's many other factors, of course, how much you engage with an actual profile, how much you comment with it, your relationship that you have with certain profiles. It might be that it is a brand versus your friend. There's also the time that or how much time you actually spend on the app, scrolling and seeing your content. But the reason why the algorithm was put in place is because Instagram actually wants to curate content for your feed based on what's important to you. So back when the feed was chronological, you were seeing content chronologically, and it could have been that maybe the last 10 posts that had been posted in the last 5 minutes weren't really that relevant to you. You didn't really care about them. They're just people that you followed, and you just rolled past and you didn't have that much engagement with it. The thing is, the algorithm actually is tailoring content for you to engage with it more. So for me, I follow 1,100 people. I'm not gonna actually see 1,100 people's or accounts content on my feed in a day. So Instagram is trying to make your life a little bit easier with the algorithm and tailoring content for you that you actually want to see, rather than just scrolling past content that you couldn't really care much about. So that's the whole reason with the algorithm. And with that, it actually ranks content higher when it also like puts content lower down in your feed. It doesn't mean that Instagram is shadow banning your content, but if you spend enough time on your feed, say you scroll for 5 hours, eventually you'll see that content of those profiles that you don't engage much with. And then you might like it, you might not, but that depends on the relationship that those users have with your content. So you have to create content that's engaging for them, that actually wants them to like it, comment. So you have to build that relationship. You have to work really, really hard. And it's kind of like playing a game. I know it's frustrating. I'm frustrated because I've managed accounts after the algorithm went in place. And I felt like I had to work 10 times as hard as before when I was actually growing organically and I was working with the chronological feed. I'm dating myself a little bit, but I've been in social media for like 6 years. So that was way before the algorithm was put in place. And life was so much easier back then. But I don't think I was actually getting as much engagement from the people that actually I was meant to target. So now we have to work a little bit harder. So there is no shadow ban. That's just the algorithm doing its work and tailoring content for the right people. So you, as a content creator, as a brand, as an influencer, whoever it may be, you have to work harder to actually build that engagement with the people that you're trying to reach. So that's kind of the consensus with that. So there is no shadow ban, but we still have to work hard to get our content in the right eyes. Next, myth number 2, too many hashtags in your captions will ding your content in the feed. So there is actually a limit on how many hashtags you can use within Instagram. Instagram actually has a limit. Planoly has a limit because we abide by the Instagram API, but there's only 30 hashtags that you can use. Any hashtag limit, any hashtags over that, you actually can't post it. So what Instagram has set that limit, but it doesn't mean that because you use 30 hashtags, you're going to get dinged. So this is kind of like a 2-part answer. Feel free to use all 30 hashtags. But the thing is, you have to be smart with the hashtags that you use. So sometimes I get this question a lot, like, what hashtags do I use for my content? Well, there's no universal answer. I've probably gone over this a few times in different webinars, but there is this one website called Display Purposes. I believe it is. Let me double check. I want to give you guys the right. Yeah, displaypurposes.com. And I'll actually share it with you really quick. And it's a really great tool. It's actually a webinar student attendee had recommended this, and it was such a great tool. I was so glad that they had recommended this. But for display purposes only, allows you to find hashtags that are relevant to the content that you're looking for. So for example, I want to find architecture. I want to find hashtags that are relevant to architecture because I'm in architecture and I want to create content for architecture. I don't, but let's say I do. If I find a hashtag architecture, for display purposes, we'll give you a list of the most relevant hashtags that are relevant to that hashtag that you were looking for. So if you're in kind of like hitting a wall and trying to find those hashtags and you're like, oh, I don't know what to use. Maybe I should use like hashtag Instagood and Instafam. Don't use those hashtags because those hashtags are now at 1 billion users. If you look it up, I thought it was 1 million, and last night I checked it out, it was 1 billion. So you don't want to get your hashtag, you don't want to put hashtags in your content that are just being thrown into pools of millions of uses where with no clear direction. You actually want to have a good collection of niche hashtags that are relevant to your content, and also that with hashtags of people that are actually engaging with that content. So Instagood, Instafam, all those like Insta hashtags aren't going to do you any favors. You have to make build your collection of 30 hashtags that are niche and probably have like uses in the millions. That's totally fine. But also try to stick around the 500,000, maybe even less, and engage with those hashtags that are in your community. So that's the first part to that answer. The second part is that there is no, so yes, look for displaypurposes.com. Perfect tool that I just love all the time. Let's go back to the webinar. Okay. So, oh, sorry, I'm trying to get rid of this Zoom chat. And you guys already saw that it is false. Most of these will probably be false. But okay, so that is the hashtag use. Use 30 hashtags that are relevant to your content and not just like go crazy with whatever hashtags are slightly relevant to your content. They have to be very, very specific and niche and relevant. And then the question that I get to is whether you should be putting your hashtags in your caption or your comments. Before last week, because of the event that we had gone to, the team from Instagram was there and they were able to clear up a lot of these myths. So they had mentioned that it doesn't matter whether you put your captions in your comments or your caption. It doesn't matter. Instagram still picks it up and it's still going to go ahead and put your content within those hashtag pools. So whatever you like. If you like to hide your hashtags with like a few dots at the bottom of your caption, feel free to do so. If you want to go ahead and put it in your caption or sorry, in your comments after you post, feel free to do so. Whatever you like, it doesn't matter. So too many hashtags or putting your hashtags in your captions or in your comments will ding your feed, will ding your content in the feed. No, it's false. So you're good to do whatever you'd like, just as long as you're using the right hashtags. One note on hashtags, however, there are hashtags that have been blocked by Instagram. So I don't think that there's any shadow banning going for profiles, but there are certain terms and conditions and regulations that Instagram has for its content. So if you're using hashtags that aren't fitting the community guidelines for Instagram, your content will not be shown in those hashtag pools. And also your content might be flagged, especially if it's like has a certain hashtag that, you know, as Instagram has deemed inappropriate, anything like that, then you might be in trouble. But if you're meeting by the community guidelines and you're not, you know, putting up any content that might give Instagram a red flag, you're totally fine. I definitely always encourage everybody to look at the community guidelines to make sure that everybody's A-okay and you shouldn't have a problem. But hashtags do have, I wouldn't say that they're shadow banned, but they do have regulations on hashtags. So whenever you are thinking of using a hashtag, look it up on the explore page. Look up the hashtag and see it. Sometimes it'll automatically populate and say this hashtag doesn't meet community guidelines, so none of the content will be shown. I would suggest doing that first before you actually put the hashtag into your comments or caption. So yes, this is false. Myth number 3, the algorithm is meant to hide your content and censor you. So kind of like myth number 1. No, the algorithm isn't meant to hide your content. It is meant to rank your content relevant to everybody's feed. So for example, if I do architecture, I'm just going to stick with the architecture theme. If I do architecture content, but half of you guys don't care about it, but you follow me, my content isn't going to show up at your feed because it's not relevant to you. You just follow me, but my content isn't relevant to you. That should say something for me. Okay, my followers, I put a lot of architecture content, but my followers don't like it. So I need to think on how I can actually create content that's tailored for them. Something that they're actually going to like and comment and engage with rather than just posting what I think is relevant to me. And I know that this is kind of draws a line because you want your feed to be relevant to you. Of course, you don't want to like mold yourself to other people's expectations. I totally get that. But if that's the case, maybe you should be engaging with more architecture or, architecture type people or home decor people that are actually going to appreciate your content rather than the followers that you have that just don't care about it anymore. If they don't care about it and you really want to stick to architecture, then maybe you have to shift your direction in the way that you engage rather than shifting the way that you create content. Allow your content to find the eyes of the people that it's relevant to. So that goes with engaging with hashtags, boosting posts to people that are relevant to that certain niche. And then you'll see that your engagement will go up. So it doesn't, and your content and then will actually show up at the top of their algorithm because it's relevant to them, because they've actually engaged with your content, because they've actually commented. So definitely work on those engagement strategies, or shift your content strategy. It's either one or the other, but the algorithm isn't meant to hide your content, and it's not meant to censor you unless you're using hashtags that are not meeting community guidelines, or putting up content that doesn't meet community guidelines. I know that it's kind of sticky with Instagram. Certain community guidelines it's almost like navigating a PG type social media space, but as long as you're meeting those community guidelines, you should be fine. So yes, this is a myth. However, with a caveat that they will censor content that does not meet those community guidelines. So read the community guidelines. Next, myth 4, switching to a business or creator account will lower your engagement. So I've actually switched to an Instagram business account over a year ago, and my content has still been the same engagement. I've still had the same, if anything, I've actually grown in followers. My engagement has gone up, and I have tools to see how my content actually works. Raise your hand if you feel that if you've switched over to a business account or a creator account, something new that Instagram just switched has lowered your engagement. Okay, we're seeing a few hands come up. So it's half and half. I've heard people say that it's tanked their engagement. There's other people that say that it's actually helped their engagement. For me, it's been the same. I haven't seen anything go crazy. But what I will say is that switching to a business account isn't going to hinder you. Switching to a business account is actually going to help you, especially with all the tools that Instagram is going to be giving you when you switch to a business account. So if you do feel that your content is tanking or it's lowering in engagement, I would definitely use the tools such as Instagram Insights, and now you can actually see your insights on desktop. I think you might be able to see a little bit more if you see your insights on desktop. But basically, use those tools to help navigate your content and elevate your content. If you see that your audience, your engagement hasn't been all that great this week, use that and see, okay, this content that we posted this week isn't doing that great. Why is that? So, look at that content. Of course, we're always going to look at the best performing content and get excited and move forward. But no, we should always look at the worst performing content and see, why didn't that work? Why didn't that resonate? Ask yourself all these questions so that you can continue elevating your content and move up. And also, maybe you have to put in an even stronger engagement strategy. You really have to, for example, I have a friend who I've been helping out run their social, and it's kind of running from we have to work from the ground up. I have to spend so much time engaging with people, engaging with other channels that are relevant to ours, and just try to get our eyes or their eyes back to our site or to our profile. So we really have to work hard, especially if you're a small profile. You really have to put in that work. And I know that sometimes we'll feel kind of, oh, maybe I'll just get an engagement bot to engage with these people. Please don't ever do that. You do have to do the manual labor and engage with the content. You really have to put in a one-on-one relationship with people so that it actually feels like they're being seen. Like, you don't want to go just have an automated bot and say, oh, great post, love this, cute content, whatever. That's nothing. That for me screams, oh, they're using a bot and they're just engaging with my content. But if you're actually referring to something within the photo and you're commenting on whether you liked it or whatever it may be, and you're actually building a conversation with my content, oh, this is a brand, but I know that there's a person behind that profile that's actually looking at my content, engaging with it, liking it. Maybe I should engage back. Maybe I should follow them. So you want to build that type of relationship rather than just liking their post or commenting, love this pic. Like, that's kind of a red flag now for engagement bots. And another thing that I have seen in the past month is viewership bots. So I don't know if anybody else had this, but a lot of people, I don't know why it was specifically Russian accounts and large accounts, like big influencer accounts, were looking at my stories on all the time, and they never followed me. And then I did a little bit more investigation and found out that they were running mass watching bots. So they were selecting accounts that fit this, certain hashtags or a certain demo, and then they were just running bots to watch stories on that account's behalf. It's not that they were actually looking at my content. It's not that they were actually engaging with my content, but they were just running a bot. So I kind of like picked up a red flag for me, and I eventually just blocked them because I didn't want any fake engagement on my stories. So going back to switching to a business or creator account, you do have to use those tools that Instagram gives you to help create better content. Don't use any automated anything. You just have to put in a stronger strategy to engage and create better content and see what actually works for your audience. So switching to a business or creator account will not lower your engagement. You just have to focus on our content and see, okay, maybe our content isn't working. What can we work on? What can we make better? So always look to actually elevate your content. Myth number 5, editing your captions after you post will hinder your content within the algorithm. I actually used to believe this. I thought that if I edited my captions, whatever I had to put on my Planoly grid had to actually be the one caption that I put. And if I changed it, then it just ruined everything. It just threw the Instagram algorithm out of whack, that I wasn't going to get any more engagement. And when we were at New York last week, the Instagram team said that that is totally false. You can definitely change your caption within your Instagram caption. You can change your caption after you've posted it, and you can add certain hashtags, tags, tag certain profiles, whatever it may be, and it will not hinder you. You can definitely do whatever you'd like. You can even add an addendum, and you can go ahead or kind of like an updated something to your post. Especially if something new happened, and you can definitely add it to your caption, but it will not hinder you. So you're definitely okay on that. Myth number 6, Instagram is going to hide likes. So I don't know if any of you guys saw it earlier this year. I think it was March. Instagram started testing out hiding likes in Canada. And when I've heard this, I didn't know what to expect, because while I get the intention that it was to have people focus less on the likes and focus on it being a numbers game, that Instagram isn't much of a numbers game, and I totally get that. But if they did hide likes, I'm thinking from the influencer business industry, it was kind of going to shift everything. In my perspective, if I were to ask an influencer, usually if we were to work with an influencer, we would look at their profile, do their engagement on our own. We would look at their likes, look at their comments, look at who is actually liking their comments or who's liking their content, to make sure that they're not bots or they haven't bought followers, whatever it may be. So if I didn't have access to see that, that was going to completely change everything for me as a brand. And definitely of course, for an influencer, because they can definitely just, not rely on the likes. They can just try to get brand deals on following. But for me, it was completely different. So this is in beta. I'm not going to say that it's false and that it's true. It is in beta. Instagram has been testing this. I think they still are. My thing is, if they don't release this by the end of the year, they probably won't release it to the world. I think there was a lot of backlash on hiding likes, and I get the intent behind it. I totally get it. I get it. It was to, make social media less of a toxic space for, kind of a popularity contest because of numbers. But people really did want to keep those likes. So I don't think that they might be going through with it. However, we will still stay on the beat and make sure that if they do decide to do it, we'll be sure to let you know. But it is in beta. They have been testing it. They just tested it out to Canada. So if you're in Canada, actually, if you saw this, raise your hand. I'm curious to know if you saw this. Oh my goodness. Like, did you actually have it on your profiles? I'm very curious to know. Did you just like wake up one morning and see it? They're still hiding it in Canada. My personal account still hides likes. Interesting. Okay. I would love to talk to you guys afterwards and see how it navigates because we're in Austin, Texas in the US, and we don't see it. We haven't been able to see it. So would really love to talk to you guys afterwards. I might email you guys, so might get an email from me. They changed it back on his to make it normal again, though. Yeah, here's the thing. I just feel like eventually they're gonna just not do it, but it's still been in beta, so we'll see. Who knows? I have a Canada account, and I help out and can see all of her likes. Okay, but I think when you are managing an account, you can see the likes. If I were an influencer and I had that feature set on mine where I can hide likes, if I manage that account, I can still see the likes. So Caleb, it's just Canada, so not in the US. It's just been Canada. So okay, let's move on. Ooh, I lost this comment box. All right, let's go. So next one, the follow unfollow method is one of the best ways to grow your following. If you do this, please don't ever do it. It's one of actually the most annoying, if anything, the truth about this is the most annoying ways to grow your following. I think in a certain way, it has been effective, but doesn't create long-term results. I've had a lot of profiles that follow and unfollow me, and the minute that I see, oh, okay, they followed me, cool, I looked at their content, not really something I would follow, but cool, thanks for the follow. And then a week later, I see that they followed me again. So that means that they unfollowed me to follow me back. So it's like, oh, you want me to follow you. I get it. But I already looked at your content and I'm not going to follow because I'm only going to follow the people that actually I want to see their content. People do it again and again and again. Eventually, if you're not going to get a follow, you're probably going to get blocked because that's what I did. I blocked these people because they were just annoying me, and I was like, you're not a loyal follower. You're not following me because you like my content. You're following me because you want me to follow you. And once I give you that follow, you're going to unfollow. So this is not a viable strategy to grow your following at all, because like many people, they do use those apps when they find out who's following them and who's not following them. And if they find out that you're not following them, they're going to go and unfollow you. So this goes back to me saying that you really have to build on relationships. You really, really have to work on building engagement with your audience, actually having conversations with your audience, rather than passive type of engagement like liking, looking at stories, following. That's not the best engagement. You kind of have to have a two-part practice, and if you are actually going to like people's content, then you actually have to comment on what the content is and tap into the conversations that the people that you're following are building, and hope that they can come back to your profile and have conversations on your profile. Because at the end of the day, we want to have our social media to be a conversation platform rather than just working for the likes. So this is definitely false. Please don't ever do this. Don't use any of those like hacks either. I have a whole webinar on hacks as well, so I would definitely recommend go to the Planoly blog and look up Instagram hacks to avoid. I think I also have a webinar on YouTube. I might have done it on January or February. Can't remember. But if you would like to see that, definitely look it up on the Planoly blog. But yeah, don't do any of that. Don't do any buying engagement. Don't do buying any bots or anything like that. Don't do comment pods. Comment pods are probably one of the worst too. And I will admit, I fell for it at the very beginning because I was like, okay, I know that you have to get like so much engagement within the first like 10 to 15 minutes because the algorithm is based on acceleration. So if Instagram detects that there's a lot of engagement going on in your content in a very short amount of time, then I'm going to get boosted to the top of the algorithm. And that is true. Like, the algorithm is based on acceleration as well. They actually didn't discuss this, like Instagram actually didn't discuss this, but I've noticed, I've tested it, that if you actually get a lot of engagement in a short amount of time, Instagram senses like some type of urgency going on in your content. And especially if that profile or that content is relevant to you, then Instagram is going to go ahead and boost that content. Why do you think like engagement posts do so well? Because they get so much engagement. I'm thinking like engagement, but they get a lot of engagement. I'm so funny. In a short amount of time, or for example, baby announcements or gender reveals, like all those type of posts get so much engagement in a short amount of time. Like any congratulatory news or even like not so great news that get a lot of, maybe somebody passing and people, comment and they say, I'm very sorry for your loss. Like a lot of people come in and write comments about that. So Instagram detects the acceleration of engagement within those posts, and then it'll boost up within the algorithm. So I know that the engagement pods and the engagement boost groups were trying to do that, but they're not a good viable strategy, because then you'll always have the same 15 people commenting on your post. And then if I, as a brand, see that you're having the same 15 people comment on your post, I'm like, are they only talking to the 15 people when they have like 15,000 followers? Kind of a red flag. So definitely don't do any of these like hacks. Just honest time, putting your time for honest engagement. So yes, this is false. Myth number 8, Instagram doesn't actually lead sales. I don't know why I keep hearing this. People always say like, yeah, Instagram doesn't actually work. Like Instagram, you don't actually sell from Instagram. And it's actually very interesting. There is a saying in advertising that I know half of my my marketing doesn't work. I just don't know what half. And there's a very, if you follow James Nord, he's the founder of Four. I definitely suggest everybody follows his newsletter. He gives a great insight on Instagram, on the influencer industry, just writes amazing emails. And you can email him. He's very, responsive. But he gives great insights on his weekly newsletter. Sometimes it's bi-weekly. But last week he had a newsletter where he was talking about some brands just don't understand that Instagram does so much. There's so much power in Instagram, and brands don't really understand that, especially when it comes to influencer advertising. So an example here, this brand had invested X amount of money into the influencer strategy. Influencer had done a few posts, and they had their own promo code and whatever it may be. And actually, sorry, vice versa. This brand had actually done Instagram ads beforehand. They had went ahead and done a few Instagram boosted posts, Instagram targeted ads to their audience, and they went ahead and ran a campaign for a week. And then the week after, they went ahead and did influencer advertising. So they went ahead and had a few influencers promote their the brand and had their own promo posts. But they didn't actually, while these influencers had tracking links, none of the sales were made through the tracking link from the influencers. But that week that the influencers had promoted, they did get a boost in sales. There was no way to track the sales coming from the influencer, but it kind of puts in this perspective that you have to think of yourself as a buyer. If I see an ad, if I saw that Instagram ad the week before, okay, that's my first time getting exposed to that brand or to that product. So I'm like, okay, cool. It's a cool brand. All right. Let's for example, Recess. I'm a Recess buyer because I saw an Instagram ad once and I was like, oh, cool branding. But I didn't buy it then and there. And then I saw an influencer ad and I'm like, oh, that's the second time I see it. Cool. An influencer likes it. They kind of gave it their sign of approval. All right, awesome. So then I go to Nordstrom and I find recess at Nordstrom. Because I've already been exposed to that Instagram ad, because I've already seen that influencer ad, I could have, had they not been for those ads, I probably wouldn't have bought recess. So you do need that exposure on Instagram to actually lead you to the final sale. People had to be hit in certain maybe 3, 4, maybe 7 times before they actually buy a sale. This is why newsletters are so important. This is why constant advertising on Instagram is so important. This is why brands like Glossier, Casper, and Away do so well, because they're constantly advertising on all social media platforms and using influencer marketing and doing offline retail sales as well. So if it wasn't for the Instagram ad and for the advertiser, the influencer advertisement, I probably wouldn't have picked up this recess when I saw it when I was walking around Nordstrom. Like, oh, like I saw that online, let me give it a try. And they got me. So it's not to say that Nordstrom did anything. Nordstrom didn't do anything. They just had it in front of me. But if I had walked into Nordstrom and never saw this can, I would have never bought it. But because I had Instagram and influencers, and I've already been kind of conditioned to seeing it before, okay, I'm finally going to give it a try. So you do have to put in that time and money into actually advertising on Instagram, be it on boosted ads or influencers, whatever it may be, to finally lead you to sales. It will take time. It is not an overnight kind of thing. Unless you're doing like a sale where you're actually selling a product that was $80 and you're selling it to like $20 for a limited time, then you'll probably see some really quick overnight conversions. But with things that are just like regular price, people are going to take their time with it. So yes, Instagram actually does lead to sales eventually. So myth number 9, you can grow just as much organically without paying for boosted posts on Instagram. So like I mentioned earlier, I've been in social media for 6 years. So you do have to, before then, on the social channels that I was managing at the companies that I worked for, I 100% grew those channels organically. However, the algorithm came. The algorithm came both on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I think Pinterest has kind of an algorithm as well. We're no longer at the time where we could just work off of creating content chronologically, and we have so many more profiles that have been created that we actually have to compete with. There's 1 billion users on Instagram. 6 years ago, I think it was, I don't even know what the number was 6 years ago. Probably way smaller than that. So I didn't have to compete with as much. So now you actually do have to invest in paying for boosted posts to grow on Instagram. I've tried the same strategies that I used 6 years ago to grow channels that I have now, and it does not work. It does not work. And you do need to invest some type of budget to either boosted posts on Instagram, creating advertisements on the feed, or my favorite, Instagram stories ads. Instagram stories ads are a great way to captivate your audience in a very short amount of time while they're watching their stories. So you do have to invest into boosted posts because it's just not as easy anymore to grow organically. So this is false. You do have to have some type of budget. And I think that's the last one. So in conclusion, I feel like the common thread behind all of these is that Instagram is trying to bring us down, and they're not. We have to look at ourselves and see what's working, what's not working, and have a really critical assessment of our content. And it's not just us looking inward, it's asking our peers as well. I have a friend, Rita, she's a social media manager out in New York, and I asked for her advice on certain things that we do, even for our webinar. And it's good to have your perspective from other people, and especially people who are willing to give you honest advice rather than just try to gas you up and say like, oh yeah, the content looks so great. Like, no, please give me the critical feedback that I need to help my brand grow. Like, if you think something sucks, tell me that, that Instagram stories thing that I did was bad and I probably should never do it again. You need to have those conversations with people that are definitely going to give you your feedback, and ask your audience. Instagram like gives you so many tools, like the questions tool, the poll tool, the emoji slider, even your comments. Use that as leverage to understand your audience a little bit better and create content that's tailored for them. Involve them into the social conversation so that way you know you can actually cater to them rather than creating content and hope that they like it. If you're not asking them, you're not going to get actual feedback that you need to help you grow. We all need feedback. We need to like have this feedback loop. That's what social media is. It is a feedback loop that we need to create with our audience rather than just like hoping that we get likes and followers. It's much more than that. So ask yourself, ask your community, ask your peers in person, and of course, like ask them for in an email or, you know, send them a DM. But in person is so much better because you can actually like look at things together and understand, yeah, I didn't like this. This probably could have done better. That you need that feedback. And even if your content is doing great, ask what you can do better. Like you can only move up. That's the goal. So see what will actually help you grow and boost your engagement. And then ask yourself, what strategies can you do from end to end, from your end, to ensure that that people are coming back to your profile, and of course not just liking your content, but actually having full conversations that will continue putting your content to the top of their feed because they constantly engage with you, because they constantly like your content, because they're visiting your profile, because they're going to you for the content that they want. Ask yourself, what can you do? And of course, like, how can you continue elevating your content to succeed? I think we kind of have to take ourselves from this mentality that Instagram is secretly putting all these things to help us, you know, do bad. But if we were doing bad on the profile, wouldn't we just go somewhere else or just delete our profiles? I don't think so. So definitely let's look a little bit inward and see how we can grow rather than using these myths as a scapegoat as to why we're not doing so great. I know it's frustrating. I get it. I hate it, but I think we can definitely get our content to the right place. But I would love to hear from you. What other myths have you heard? Maybe there's something that I didn't cover that I can definitely try to investigate. Really willing to hear you guys out. But let's see. Where's the chat box? I swear, Zoom always gives me. Amber, is it better to put hashtags in your post or in the comments? So that was actually one of the myths that I talked about, and it doesn't matter. You can do whatever you'd like. You can put it in your captions or your comments. It won't hinder you. Remy, I love James Nord in his recent video on YouTube. Yeah, well, follow James Nord. James Nord is, we had the pleasure of seeing him last month at the FOR conference, the Innovate U conference. So insightful. Like, if you can follow his newsletter, watch his YouTube videos, listen to the Foreground podcast, so much. It's just like you can get so many nuggets. He is a brilliant guy. Brilliant guy. I will put it's spelled very interesting. It's called Foreground Podcast. Is it true that Instagram is flagging hashtags that are not relevant to your post? And when our creator accounts launching, does the creator account have to do with your following? So Hannah, we actually have a whole post on our Planoly blog about creator accounts. You can definitely dive into it. But I think they're coming out little by little. I actually had the option to create my creator account, but I just switched to business because I'm not a creator. So they have been out. I think they're rolling them out little by little. Instagram doesn't flag hashtags that are not relevant to your posts. I think back to what I had mentioned, you have to make sure that your hashtags are relevant, because if you're putting hashtags that are not relevant to your post, then you're not really doing anything for your content. You have to make sure that they're relevant, so you're actually getting your content to the right audience. Because, for example, if I post my look today and I put hashtag Nike, I have nothing on me that's Nike. Why is anybody looking up the Nike hashtag gonna want to engage with my content if it falls under the Nike hashtag Nike pool. It's not going to do anything for you. So you have to make sure that everything that you do is very intentional, strategic, and not just to fill up a hashtag quota. Again, you don't have to use all 30 hashtags that Instagram has a limit for you, but make sure that you actually have the hashtags that are relevant. You don't have to use all 30. You can just use 15 that are the most relevant to your content. I think we kind of get in this mindset that we have to use all 30 hashtags and then end up throwing hashtags that aren't just relevant to us. So we have to make sure that we can tailor that to be as specific as possible. So many questions. Actually, let me go to the questions tab because those are the 7. We have 7 questions, so actually let me stop sharing. 1 second, guys. Okay. Is there a way to get your insights on a computer instead of the phone, somewhere altogether? What's the best way to report Instagram analytics? So you can actually look at your Instagram analytics from, if you do have a business account, you can go ahead and look at your insights through Facebook. I believe we created a blog post about this. Let me check really quick. But you can look at your insights through Facebook once you can make your creator profile or your business profile. And actually, I'm sorry, you have to build a creator profile to see your insights on desktop. And you will see everything from your likes, from when your audience is most active, what content is best performing, all your insights on your stories, which is great. It just made my life so much easier because I'm like, oh, I can finally see this on desktop. I hope that we wrote something about it. Okay, I don't think we haven't covered it yet, but we will go ahead and share a few links. What I'll do, I'll actually share a few links that I've found on this so far and share it with you guys. But yes, you can, once you create a profile, and tell me if anybody else here there usually is like a notification, and this is how I got it. I got a notification on my Instagram that said you can look at your insights on desktop now, create your creator profile to view your insights. I went ahead and clicked it and built my profile, and I could see all my insights, and it's through Facebook. So you can see all of your insights. So there is a way, Katie, I will try to email you a few links about that and just see if I can find a better answer for you. But yes, it is possible. Sorry. Sorry, the questions are like coming in. I was told this weekend that small hashtags will also feed up into similar larger hashtags. Do you know if that's true? For example, if you use chocolate, it will also show up in food or dessert. So, good question. I actually don't know the exact answer to that, but I don't see how that is not possible because, yeah, chocolate is relevant to hashtag food and dessert. So the one thing that is, I wouldn't see why Instagram wouldn't do this, because if you look at for example, if somebody sends you a post through an Instagram DM and you click on that post, you will now get suggested posts that are relevant to that content. So I wouldn't see that you wouldn't get anything, or you would get something suggested relevant to hashtag food or dessert. So I do believe that's definitely, I don't know if it's officially true, but I would say it's very feasible. It's a possibility. So I would say maybe. Okay, Jennifer, yes, I already answered that question, sorry. Brittany, yes, the slides will be available at the end. We will be posting a YouTube replay on Friday on our YouTube channel, so make sure that you subscribe. I went ahead and put the link up on the chat if you scroll up at the top, or I went ahead and sent it to you in the link, or it's actually in the registration page when you registered for the webinar. But it's youtube.com/Planoly. Are organic posts with text penalized? No, I don't see why it would be, because many people post quotes all the time, and those sometimes do great. There is a account that actually has 1 million followers, and all the posts are just text. I think it's, yeah, bossbabe.inc. Bossbabe.inc. Every post is a quote with text. There's maybe, oh, I'm seeing like 2 posts with like photos, but yeah, every post is an image with text. Either, and also that's why meme, like if that were the case, meme accounts wouldn't be so big. So, and most of them are like copy or text from tweets. So yeah, you won't get penalized for organic posts with text. Um, do let's see. If you use the same, oh, this is a great question. If you use the same hashtags, do you get penalized? This is not confirmed from Instagram, but what I will say is that you shouldn't be using the same hashtags all the time, because all the content that you're posting isn't probably the same all the time. So you do have to diversify. For me, what I do, of course, if you use Planoly, we have our hashtag collection manager. So I've set the certain hashtags that I use on a daily basis, but I also make sure that I add in hashtags that are more relevant, more specific to the content that I'm posting, based on location, based on who I'm hanging out with, or based on like whatever it may be that's more relevant to that piece of content, then I will add those hashtags. But you will not get penalized, but you do have to diversify, because if you just keep using the same hashtags all the time, I don't think it's doing much for you. You have to like broaden your content with the hashtags that you're using. Okay. My insights show hashtags get seen by a couple of hundred people now, but 1 month ago would be seen by thousands. Why is this? That's interesting. Actually, don't know. I'm curious, like, are you seeing this on the Instagram app, or, um, yeah, is it like your own hashtag? Because if it's like you mean usage, I just have a few more questions on that. So, but I'm not sure. I don't know why you would get less views on your hashtag. Are you using tools like a keyhole maybe? Because Keyhole will tell you how many views you get on a hashtag from time to time, and sometimes you'll have like 1,000 people watch it in 1 month, and then the um, hashtag will get less views, because it's all based on impressions. So if, for example, a lot of like, I don't know, maybe 1,000 people used and watched your hashtag over a month, and then next month the engagement on that hashtag decreased, that could be a possibility. Um, Interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure why. I would say that your engagement probably went down, or unless certain content was deleted from that hashtag. But I'm not sure. I don't know why. Sorry, I don't have a clear answer. Do. Okay, a lot of these are about hashtags. Creator account, Jennifer. So creator account is it's kind of different because a lot of influencers were using a business account. So now, because Instagram understands that there's more influencers on this space and it's kind of its own vertical, it went ahead and created a creator account for influencers, so they don't have to be on a business account. Okay. And Quinn, what are the top 3 things we should focus on for boosted posts and stories ads? So one thing I will say, we actually started a new app. If you're not familiar, we started our new app called Stories Edit back in March. And our focus with that is, of course, to create better stories, and of course, just boosted posts and stories ads. So whenever I create boosted posts, I make sure that it is a narrative. So sometimes Instagram will allow you to put either just one story, or you can use 3. I personally like using 3 because it kind of has a story narrative. I actually taught a webinar on how to create stories and creating stories ads. I definitely recommend, actually, maybe I can go ahead and share the link with you. There we go. Yes, we do. So for me, it's making stories, type answer. So I just went ahead and, oh, I hope that it sent both links. Hello. Yes, okay. So I just went ahead and answered you with a few links to look at. But for me, my purpose is to not just create them as ads. You have to kind of have a storytelling element when creating stories. What's actually going to captivate your audience into looking, what's going to describe your product or brand to the audience and make them feel connected. And then, of course, what's going to be your final call to action. You need to have some type of call to action that's actually going to either have them learn more, buy now, whatever it may be, some type of call to action to make sure that your ad actually drives to something. So I would definitely recommend going ahead and looking at our webinars and seeing if you, I have so many tips on there on storytelling and how to create better stories. So I hope that helps. Kaner, yes, creator profiles aren't available to everyone yet, but they are slowly rolling out. Agreed, yes. Katerina, how often should we post? Every day, skip a day, or is there a method? So there's no quota to posting on social media. Sometimes people think, oh, I need to post 3 times a day and it's 6 o'clock and I don't have a post today. I'm just gonna go ahead and post like whatever it may be because I have to post 3 times a day. No, there's no quota to posting every day or every other day. I mean, my rule of thumb is to post once every day. Post once every day that of great content. If you don't have good content, skip a day. If you don't have the content for that day, don't post it. You don't have to. The purpose of Instagram is to make sure that you're actually posting great content rather than just thinking, oh, I'm just going to post this piece of content because I need to post something today and it's like, see, at 3 o'clock and blah. No, if you're in that kind of fence where you realize that you're not actually going to put your best foot forward on the piece of content that you're going to post that day, don't post it. Quality is more important than quality. So just have that as a rule of thumb and just create great content and schedule it out. There's people that post every other day, but they create great content and their audience is always excited to see. So you can do that. It all depends on what your goals are, of course. If you want to, an action from your audience every day, or if you're posting something every day to your blog and you want to drive your audience to go back to your website, then okay, you might have to post every day. But it all depends on the goals that you've set for yourself. So I hope that clarifies. Wendy, can you offer webinar to provide feedback on our profiles? It's so hard to find honest feedback. I would, but there are about 700 people in each webinar, so I wouldn't have the capacity of just doing it myself. But if you'd like to email me, feel free to DM me at Code of Conduct with all K's, no C's, and I can take a look at your profile and can see if hopefully not everybody here asks, because I probably wouldn't be able to answer everybody, but Wendy, I will try. So feel free to DM me on Instagram and I can try to give you my feedback. Can businesses use a creator account? I wouldn't suggest a business to use a creator account because a creator account is meant for influencers. So if you're a business, use a business account. If you're an influencer or a content creator, use a creator account. Janelle, oh, this is a good question. And I'm probably going to go on for 5. Raise your hand if you want me to answer all of these, because there's a few more questions, and I know we're going over time. We're like a little bit of 5 minutes over, but you can raise your hand and let me know if it's okay if I go over. Okay, a few people are raising their hands. Okay. Janelle, is it true Instagram is looking more at saves and shares for boosting your posts? Um, I wouldn't say that Instagram is looking at it. However, you should look at it. I feel like you should understand from your perspective as a content creator or a business that what saves and shares could indicate for your content. That can mean, oh, the video that I posted that is actually a DIY got tons of saves and also tons of shares. This is content that my audience actually needs. And perhaps I can go ahead and share it with my peers. You can share it through, a DM group on Instagram. I will say that if your content gets a lot of traction, if it gets like a lot of shares and saves and likes and comments, then probably your content is most likely to show up on an explore page to somebody whose your content is relevant to. So for example, I follow a lot of drag race, a lot of drag queens, like a lot of like RuPaul's Drag Race content. So anytime I don't follow a lot of meme accounts, but my explore page is all meme accounts for Drag Race. So probably things that have been shared through memes are probably going to show up in my explore page because Instagram's going to be like, oh, hey, like this has gotten a lot of traction. It's getting a lot of engagement. You should probably like this or look at this. So I would say that it is taking into consideration saves and shares, maybe probably more shares. But as a content creator, you should use that as an indicator as how engaged your audience is. You should probably try to aim to create more content that's going to give you saves and shares because that's the actual content that's going to help you grow rather than just comments and likes. So I would say yes. Do we still factor in when is the right time of day to post? Yes. And this is different for everybody. There is no right time to post. You, as a business account or a creator account, have to see in your insights when your audience is most active. So, for example, my audience is most active on Tuesday at 3 o'clock. Okay, I know that I have to post at 3 o'clock today because that's when they're most active on the app. That's for me. Everybody's different. So definitely look at your insights. This is one of the benefits of having a business account because you can actually see when your audience is most active. When people constantly say, oh no, 3 o'clock on a Monday is like the best time to post, like it's different for everybody. So don't fall into this thing like, 3 o'clock every day is like the best time to post. That could work for Sally, but it might not work for me. So look at your insights. Then definitely post when your audience is most active on the app. But also take in consideration that the algorithm is not chronological, but if you do get the engagement at the time that you posted, then of course your audience will definitely see that content. Karina, you can create Instagram stories ads through Facebook. So you can go ahead and do all of that through the Facebook. Just as you would create an ad for Instagram on Facebook, it's the same way that you would do an Instagram ad. What I would say is that if you do want some type of tool to help you create Instagram ad, then I would suggest download Stories Edit to help you create those stories that you can upload to Facebook and then go ahead and boost those as an Instagram ad. So I hope that helps. Do you recommend the stories highlights that are monthly instead of topic based? Example, June, July, August instead of recipes, workouts, etc. No, I would suggest recipes, workouts because or you could do a mix of both because me necessarily, I don't look at content based on month because that could be so broad. That could just be so much type of content. Like you could put in recipes, workouts, advice, I don't know, concerts, whatever it may be in June. So that means I have to like tap through to see what I want. So I would just be more specific and put into recipes and workouts. And if you want to be more specific, then you can put spring recipes, fall recipes, winter recipes. So it's more timely rather than just putting recipes in all together. For example, I go to concerts a lot. So all of my concerts that I went for 2018 are in their own highlight, and I started a new highlight for all my 2019 concerts. So it's not like 100 stories that people have to tap through. So break it down and based on specificity. I hope that helps. Can you make lists on Instagram like Twitter? No, but there is a great tool that I love from my friend who is the founder of People Map, and you can create lists on People Map. For example, if you're running a campaign and you want to go ahead and target certain influencers, say you want to target or you want to create a list of influencers within fitness, whatever it may be. Feel free to go, you can go ahead on People Map, and actually let me go ahead and drop in the link for you. peoplemap.co. So I just went ahead and drop the link for you. Yeah. But People Map is a great tool. You can just go ahead and you can do a lot of community growth, campaign tracking, and finding out Instagram stats through People Map. But it's a great tool to build lists. So if you, like I mentioned, if you're trying to look for influencers for fitness for a certain campaign, or you just want to create lists, so that way you know whenever you have a campaign for a client that you already have a list to pull from, that you can use People Map for it. It is a great tool. It saves so much time. It is so helpful. But yeah, I definitely recommend People Map. All right, last question. What's the most effective duration for a boosted post ad on Instagram? How many days long? I don't have the exact answer for this. What I do is I test out certain boosts, like I boost certain posts for test time. So for example, 3 days to see how it works. And then it could be like day one really sucks. Day 2, I could get some traction. And then day 3, it does really well. Then I'm, depending on the budget, of course, I will try it for a week, or I'll try it for 2 weeks. I think you might want to do it for a week to 2 weeks and see how that works for you. I would try that, but then again, it always depends on budget. Everybody has different budgets. So try to see what works for you. I would always suggest do A/B test at first, and for maybe 2 to 3 days, and see how your boosted posts perform, and then try to add a timeline to it based on your goals. So usually what I see on Instagram stories or Instagram ads, I won't see the same post for more than a week or 2 weeks. From there, then I'll see another round. I'll probably start seeing Instagram stories or something different. But maybe I would say 1 to 2 weeks, and then try to run a different campaign and try to always switch it up. It's because, think of it like this way: you're putting content on people's feeds, and if they keep seeing the same boosted post again and again, then they're probably going to get annoyed, or they're just going to like tune out. So you have to keep things fresh, because if it shows up on their feed, it should always be fresh new content. So I would probably say at most 2 weeks. But there's probably many other people who think a little bit differently. Oops, sorry. So we're actually doing our research on this right now, but we will be creating a blog post and probably doing a webinar on Instagram ads very soon. So stay tuned for that. Cool. All right, guys. We are at an hour and 15 minutes now. And I'm sorry that I couldn't answer all these questions. I answered only the ones in the Q&A, but if you guys want, feel free to email me. My email, let me put up the presentation again, because I do have my name and email on here. But yes, thank you everybody for joining us. I hope that you guys learned a lot, and I know this was more of part of like a discussion. But of course, anytime that we do these webinars, we try to get your feedback. So if you have any ideas or have any questions, or would like for us to teach anything next month, feel free to let us know. Feel free to email me. My email is priscilla@planoly.com. You can follow me at Code of Conduct. Make sure to follow Planoly on Instagram, and of course our new app that we just launched in March, Stories Edit, that will help you with all your Instagram stories, either for ads or just personal. It's a great tool, helpful. Really, I use it for my stories, and I know that it sounds like really biased because I work for a stories edit, but it really helps make my stories look really beautiful. But again, we'll see you guys next month. Feel free to email us. Feel free to DM us. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. And we'll see you guys next month. No, sorry, not next month, this month. We're going to be hanging out a lot this month. We're going to be, when is it? The last Tuesday of this month, which is the 30th, I believe. So mark your calendars for the 30th. We will be talking about Pinterest, how to maximize your growth on Pinterest and Instagram with a visual strategy, because Pinterest and Instagram are actually really great together. So we'll be talking about that. But again, to let us know if there's anything you would like us to cover, if there's any myths that you would want us to kind of investigate, we can definitely do that. But with that said, we'll see you guys next month. Stay tuned for the webinar recap on Friday on our YouTube channel, and we'll see you for the next time. Thanks, everybody.